Guys, welcome back to Investor Army Podcast. Today's guest, he is on the show to talk about wholesaling, rehabbing, keeping his rental properties and building his cash flow up. He's also an agent here in Dallas-Fort Worth. He's going to give us a lot of good information. Let me introduce you to my guest today, Jason McDougall.
How's it going, Connor?
Hey, what's up, man? I appreciate you coming on here.
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to get you on here. We met a couple times here, talked on Facebook. See you're doing a lot, see you're wholesaling quite a bit of houses, and also to find out now you're starting to build up your rental portfolio, which is what most wholesalers want to do, is they get into this business to build up cash flow, but they have to find a transition or a bridge into that ability to do so. So kind of how did you get into real estate? And kind of let's start out there.
Man, back in 2009, I think I was really wanting to do real estate. So I was putting out bandit signs as my start to wholesaling. And I got in trouble for putting them out. I got caught by a cop by putting them out in Hearst.
Really?
And my wife got fined and I got a fine. And I was like, you know what? I'm done with real estate. So then the goal was just to save up money and buy rental properties. And that didn't work out.
So so people ask, can you really get in trouble doing bandit signs? And, I've always heard a few people here and there, but I guess, it can. So how did that kind of happen? So were they giving you warnings over and over and you just kind of, or was it like a one-time thing, or how did that even happen?
I got caught in the act. So I was hammering the thing at the ground, and this cop throws his lights on and gets me at like midnight on a Friday. And he was like the bandit sign cop. His whole backseat was full of bandit signs. I was like, oh man, this is not going to be good.
Yeah.
So yeah, he wrote us a ticket.
I was going to say, so they actually had was it like a code enforcement guy or like what?
No, he was a cop, and he was just like really passionate about Hearst and not dirtying up his city with these signs, and wrote me for, I don't know, obstruction of public property and putting signs out and littering and stuff. So
exactly, which is basically, so you got a littering ticket.
Yeah.
Yeah. So guys, I mean, this is a big fear for a lot of new wholesalers, because I mean, you're starting your business with not a lot of money, and bandit signs is one of the easiest barriers of entry to get into the business because it's cheap. Anybody can stick a sign in the ground, and they work. They still work, right? Everybody puts out bandit signs, and but people are worried about getting caught. Usually you're just going to get some warnings, but you can get in trouble, but it's a littering ticket. I mean, I remember one time, and this is close to Halloween, so I'm going to tell it because it was on Halloween like 3 or 4 years ago. It was like 4 years ago, I guess. And I was putting out a bandit sign in this certain area, and a cop pulled up, and I was in the middle of banging it down. I looked over at him. Instead of freaking out and running off, right, I just waved at him and continued banging it down, because if they see run off, they think they know you're doing something wrong. Right. But if you just continue on doing what you're doing, if you get stopped, you can say, hey, well, I just saw these signs around town before. I didn't know I couldn't do it, right? So that's a good way to do that. So you're starting out putting out bandit signs, and you're picking up a couple deals that way, or
I didn't do a single deal. I was putting the signs out, and that happened pretty early on. So I was like, man, I'm done wholesaling. I'm not going to do it. I didn't realize there was other ways to market for deals back then. So I just kind of gave up on it. And then stuff went down at my job in 2015. I was like, man, I've got to do something to get out of my job. And I just picked wholesaling back up and just studied it and figured out how to make it work.
So what did you do? Watch some podcasts or YouTube, or how did you
podcasts, got on Bigger Pockets a lot and got on there and met people, took people to lunch, and just kind of learned everything I could about wholesaling and just dove right in.
Yeah, guys. So you don't need those big national $50,000 guru programs. You can get on there and just with a little bit of hard work and initiative, there's plenty of YouTube channels out there. You got blogs, the forums like Bigger Pockets, right? So how did you start marketing for your first deals? You just kind of jumped in. You were doing direct mail, or what?
Yeah, we just did a lot of postcards. We would do like 5,000-6,000 postcards a month, just trying to find some deals. And then I got a few deals. And after 3 deals, I was like, man, if I quit my job, I think I can do this full time. So I did. I quit my job after three deals. My wife was pregnant. I was like, we're all in, man. Let's do it.
Take that leap of faith. Sometimes that's what it takes. So
absolutely.
A lot of wholesalers struggle and new investors struggle with direct mail. It's because they're either not consistent enough or they're mailing the wrong list. So what does one of your mail campaigns look like? Are you doing, how many touches are you doing them? How often are you mailing once a quarter, or what type of list are you mailing? Kind of for some of our listeners around the country, what does it look like? Yeah.
Back when I got started, I was doing it completely wrong. We would just mail 5,000-6,000 pieces at a time, but we would never touch anybody twice. It was just everybody got one piece of mail, and I was getting deals, but for the amount of mail I was sending out, it wasn't very many deals. And direct mail was not as saturated in 2015 as it is in 2017, just 2 years ago. So it was a little bit easier. But now we hit everybody just depending on the list. Like if it's probate, every 3 weeks for 20 months. If it's foreclosure, first week, second week, and then it falls off. If it's a code violation, we'll hit them every month for 6 months. Eviction's kind of the same. So there's a different cadence for all these different lead sources, depending on what they are and how often we mail them.
Yeah, which is really important because, I mean, a lot of people, maybe buying a foreclosure list versus a probate list or an absentee owner list, you're not going to mail the same type of mailing campaign to an absentee owner list that you are a foreclosure list. For one,
Right.
that house is going into foreclosure, so you want to hit them a couple times quicker. Are you doing anything? Are you doing mainly postcards? Or are you doing yellow letters or business letters or anything special like that?
We were doing letters to start with, and we bought all the equipment to kind of print letters in house. I got a machine that folds letters and inserts them and all that stuff, and it broke recently. So I'm doing postcards again, but I'm back on the letters here pretty quick because they got a much better response rate for me.
Your letters have been?
Yeah, for sure. It was way better than the postcards.
Really? So yeah, that's what, have you experimented and split tested different types of text or content on there to see if that's worked well for you?
I haven't split tested, but I've constantly changed the letters. If I saw like wasn't doing very well, I would change text or add pictures or whatever, and just change things up to make them more appealing and see what works and what doesn't.
Yeah. So like on every 1,000 letters you send out, what is a response rate you think you're getting right now?
Like 0.5%. It's not great.
Yeah, which is pretty typical. People are telling me a lot less than that actually. Is for, I hear a lot of, 0.1%, quarter of a percent, 0.1 of 1%, right?
Yeah.
So is that all you're doing right now? You're just doing direct mail, and that's been working for you?
Direct mail, bandit signs. We're back on that now. I've got a little smarter though, so I'm not doing like I used to. And then we're getting into some online stuff now too. So we're doing some pay-per-click stuff to kind of get roll off in the online stuff.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the trend is moving online. You can reach a large number of people for a very cheap cost if you do it correctly. But I say do it correctly because if you don't do it right, you're going to waste a lot of money really quick.
Right.
So you're wholesaling for a while, and now you're transitioning into flipping houses and keeping rental properties. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So kind of what you just fixed. How many houses have you flipped? Are you just now doing this, or how long were you wholesaling for a couple of years, and now you just now doing this, or you started back in 2016, or?
Started the wholesaling in July of 15, and then started our first flip in January of 16. Like the day after I quit my job, I got a call, and it was a flip. So that was our first flip. We flipped 5 houses since then, and we've flipped 3 rentals that we've kept since then, and we have 4 total rentals.
Okay, I mean, so that's pretty good. I mean, for a couple of years in the business, you're moving along pretty quick. You're sitting out a lot. You have a lot of inventory you're pushing out through the wholesale list, which were on your buyers list. Kind of what did it look like on your first flip? I like to ask people because it's always an interesting experience. A lot of people try to do their own work. They don't do it right. They cut corners, and it always seems to go bad. Was it a good one, or did it go bad, or was it a horror story?
It went great, man. So my nickname, my wife calls me Frugal McDougall because I'm cheap. So I had 6 contractors come through that house to give me bids on it, and I finally picked one that was a good price and good quality and got it done. I think we made 35 grand on that one, and we haven't lost money on any of them yet. They've all been pretty typical of that 35 grand range.
Yeah, I mean, really, as long as you're setting that bar 20, 25,000. Most people are going to sell them for quite a bit more than they're running their comps for. Right now, I urge people that are, going through our programs and other investors, right? If the top of the market comps are 150, you should be putting them up there at 160, at least if you're doing it right. We're consistently getting appraisals $10,000 to $15,000 above what they should be.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the appraisers, they don't want to mess up a deal. Nobody gets paid. So the appraiser and the inspector are the only ones that get paid, whether or not the deal goes through or not. So the lender, the mortgage broker, the real estate agent, the buyer doesn't get the house, the investor doesn't get, so they don't want to blow the deal, right? And so then the market's still here in Dallas just going up so much. So that was one of the biggest things that if I could go back after all the houses we flipped over the past few years, is I would have just put an extra $5,000 or $10,000 up higher. The buyers are there. We would have made a lot more money. So y'all don't put up your houses too cheap, right? So now you're trying to get into the cash flow world, right? So you're starting to keep some of these.
Yeah, that's what it's all about for me is the cash flow. So I don't have to work so dang hard finding these deals. So if I see a house that, I can get it for 60 grand and put 30 in it, and it'll rent for 1,600 or something like that. Like that's a great deal. I'm not going to flip that. I'm going to try and find a way to keep it as a rental. So I borrow money from a local bank. I borrow money from private money lenders to buy these rentals and get them going.
What type of loan are you getting? Are you doing like a buy, fix, and finance out, or are you doing a conventional loan, or are you doing a construction loan, or how are you buying these from the bank?
The bank I work with is a small little bank here that I've got my accounts with, and they gave me 100% purchase price on the property if I funded the rehab. So the purchase price on one was 85 grand, and then the rehab was 20. So I paid for the rehab, and then I'll refinance out of that. It's interest only for 12 months, and I'll get out of that and refi into like a Fannie loan.
Okay. Yeah. Which way are you going to go? Are you going to go with a 15-year loan or a 30-year loan? Because, most people, they don't even really think about it enough. So a lot of people want the 30-year loan because they want to have higher cash flow, which is good. But if you're making enough money, it sounds like you are flipping and wholesaling houses. Sometimes it's better to go with a shorter term loan, make less cash flow, but they're going to pay off quicker and accelerate that pay down. What's your kind of take on that?
So I'm going to get 30-year loans on them, but I'm not going to do the 30-year payment plan. My goal is to kind of take all of the cash flow from all the rentals and pay down one house as quickly as possible, and then take the equity or the rent out of that house and pay down the next one as quickly as possible. So I want them on 30 years just in case, something goes wrong. I have some more cash flow and also more cash flow to pay down the other rentals.
Yep. So have you cranked the numbers up on that to see how fast you can accelerate the pay down? Say how fast it would.
I haven't gotten that far. No.
Yeah. So I forget, I had someone else that I talked to that was talking recently about how if you take the extra cash flow, and he was making $300 to $400 a month on top of his normal 30-year loan. And he said, if you accelerate the payment down by taking all that cash flow and throwing it towards the principal amount, it would pay off in 17 years, I think is what we were talking about. So a lot of people want to know, should you go with a 15-year or 30-year loan? Well, my opinion is go with a 30-year loan. If you want to pay it off in 15 years, just accelerate the payments towards the principal. But the problem is, how many people are disciplined enough to do that, right? So once you get that cash flow coming in, it's tough to do it. You have to have some a little bit of control over your over yourself, right? Because it's tough because you want to keep that cash flow. So what were you doing between 2009 and 2015 before you jumped into real estate?
I worked at a forklift dealership. So I started as a mechanic, and then I got into sales, and then I got into management. So it kind of gave me some skills that actually worked in real estate too, for sales especially. But once I got into management, I was like, man, I did not like the management side of it. And that's kind of when I made the jump out of that into real estate.
Yeah, I always like talking to new investors or talking about how they got into the business because they come from every walk of life, right? I mean, I know people that were homeless. I know people that drove, that worked literally driving a city dump truck around.
Wow. And
then, people come from corporate. So really, anybody can do this business. It just takes initiative and hard work. So obviously you're having to work hard to get to where what you're doing. What does a typical week look like? How many hours do you think you're putting in, and kind of what is your main focus during the week? Just generating leads, or trying to raise money?
I mean, it's like I wake up probably 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm doing stuff probably till 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night, Monday through Friday. And then Saturday I do stuff most of the day too. And Sunday I take off for myself. And I'm working on, building systems and learning new things and marketing and figuring out new marketing ideas and stuff like that. And then going on appointments, checking on projects and stuff. So I stay pretty busy with that.
So as far as your time breakdown, what kind of does it look like? I mean, obviously you have to build your buyers list, find sellers, you're looking for money. What's like the main focus? Because I think a lot of people get scatterbrained and try to do it all at once. But I think people are more successful when they try to do one thing and really focus on that.
My main focus is finding the deals. So if that's skip tracing or if that's finding new marketing ideas and stuff like that and implementing them online, that's mostly what I do. And the buyers list stuff, that kind of comes when I network with people and I get out and about, which I don't do a lot anymore. I've got 5,000 people on my buyers list now, and it kind of grows. But I still like email addresses off Facebook and stuff like everybody else does. But I don't do a good job finding money. I need to do more of that. And we kind of talked about that offline with some Quest IRA stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the money comes, and when the money comes, it comes fast, right? So like, I think it takes forever to get that first, lender or two to kind of open up that checkbook. But then kind of once they do, they tell their friends. Like, you'll go from literally struggling forever to raise money, and then all of a sudden having way more money than you could ever spend, right? So like, you'll actually have to stop trying to raise money unless you have, big goals and big aspirations to kind of syndicate or go into like apartments or big commercial subdivisions or whatever you're going to do. But the money comes, guys. So if you're focused on deal flow and you're doing what you're doing right now, which is putting a lot of deal flow out there. So it's good to have your buyers list out there growing and growing, growing, not just to sell houses to it, but you can use your buyers list for many different reasons. People will pay you to sponsor it. Most of those buyers, they're hard money lenders as well that are flipping houses, and private money lenders on there as well. And if they see consistent deal flow coming out over a sustained period of time, they know you're doing good at the business. They know you know what you're doing, and it may open up good opportunities for them to lend on your deals, right? So,
yeah, so
it's good to do that. So you're skip tracing, right? So are you doing that, and then you're doing direct mail, or are you cold calling, or are you using Mojo dialers, or
I don't use Mojo. We use TLO for skip tracing, so I like to get all return mail and just see, what the owners are and try to find the owners or descendants of the owners or whatever. And we use TLO for that.
Yep.
So it's difficult, but it takes a lot of time. But those were, some good deals in there when you skip trace them, the return mail.
Yeah, TLO, guys, is one of the better skip tracing programs. A lot of people are using that lately, and you have to, because you're getting X amount of emails, X amount of phone numbers most of the time, whatever skip tracing service you're using, and you have to stay consistent. Like a lot of people get those numbers and call them one time, and then they don't contact them again. And you need to have consistent follow-up with these people if you're not reaching them to get them on the phone. Are you using a virtual assistant to do this for you? Are you doing this in-house, or how is that working for you?
Actually, my wife does a lot of that for us. So she'll do all the research for the skip tracing, and she'll text message people, and then I'll call people. So it's kind of a team effort to attack it.
Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So I've seen it both ways. I see sometimes husband and wife couples where they're constantly competitive, where they're going to say, well, I'm going to kind of do my own thing, you're going to do your own thing, and we're going to see who's better, right? And then they compete. And then I see some that work together cohesively, as one, right? So y'all work together, y'all built your business together, which I think is pretty cool. I met her for the first time the other night. But y'all are both now real estate agents as well. And from what I understand, you got your license after you started investing, which is kind of opposite of how most people do it. Let's talk about that a little bit, because I get this question, besides from how to find money, how to, find sellers. A lot of people ask me, should I get my license? Do I need a license? What's the benefits of a license? What's the drawback of having a license? So let's kind of go over your take on all this for some of these new investors out there that want to follow in your footsteps.
Yeah, so I was getting some leads when I was doing investing stuff first that would be good listings. People want to retail for their houses. And I was like, man, I'm missing on some opportunity here to just do some listings. I'll put a lockbox in the house and a sign on the yard and put it on the MLS. That's no problem. So I got my license and I did a few listings, and I was like, really, this is a beatdown. It's not at all like the wholesaling side. It's really a beatdown. So I didn't do a whole lot of it, but I really think that having your license benefits you. I've met several sellers that are like, I trust you. I know you have to do everything by the book because you're a realtor. And I don't think it ever is a negative at all in any situation.
So do you think it helps you getting offers on the investor side when you basically say, well, here's the deal. I have two options for you. I can list your house or I can buy your house. I think you're going to do better off if we list your house here. So you're giving them an option, and they don't think that you're trying to come in and just steal their house from them. Like how does that kind of look like when you approach a seller? Kind of what does the conversation flow kind of look like? How do you try to get buy the house first as an investment deal, or you try to list it first, or how's that kind of look like?
I kind of feel them out. My whole goal, number one, is to get it as a wholesale or a flip or whatever I can. But if I feel like that's not going to be the best option, or I'm going to lose the seller by doing that, I'll offer the flip scenario. So I'll say, just depending on what you want to do you have a house that's in great condition, or is it in bad condition? Do you need to sell really fast, or do you have some time on your hands to wait and list it on the market for 60 to 90 days or whatever? If they say I've got time on my hands, my house is in great shape, I'll say, well, my offer is not going to make sense for you as an investment. So here's what we can do as a listing and put it on the market for you. Here's a CMA of what you could expect to sell your house for. And that gets a pretty good response of like, I'm not lowballing somebody on a really nice house, because if they're going to sell their house, they're going to sell it with a realtor probably that's going to give them like a hopes and dreams of a higher price. So I'm just going to target that side.
Yeah. And you're actually doing the best thing you can for these people. Most of the time, it may not be best for them to sell it to you one way or the other, right? So it is good to kind of help people and their family get, kind of the best result for them. So one thing to point out, the listing or the agent side is not like wholesaling, right? So the experience you have, it's not fun just to go show houses. Whereas wholesaling, once you get that lead, it's exciting, right? It happens so quick. Like we had one this week, someone brought us a deal in the morning. And within like 3 hours, we'd sold that house, right? So people don't realize how fast it can actually happen. Most of these houses you're getting under contract, you're probably selling them the same day, right? If the numbers work.
Yeah. People ask me like, well, if I'm coaching them, they said, how long should I get an option period for? I'm like, you only need 3 days, because if you can't sell the house in 3 days, it's not a deal. So if you can't negotiate a longer 5-day option period, 3 days is fine. They do sell quickly. And the realtor side of things, who knows how long it'll take, right? It's just a hurry up and wait game.
Well, it's good you pointed that out, that you only get a short option, because that is something that I do personally to increase my chances of getting more deals, right? Because we're in a competitive market. DFW is competitive. A lot of the markets around the country are competitive. You're not going to most likely be the only one going to these houses. So if you're going in and you're offering a 30-day option versus, you know, say we both offer 100 grand and your offer's 30-day option and my offer is 5-day option. What are they going to do, right? Because most of these sellers don't know a lot, but they know that they have a month of a mortgage to carry. They know they're paying taxes and insurance. They know that they don't want to be held hostage. So you're going to lose that deal. So it's good that you brought that up, that if you can't sell it that quick, you don't really need to be taking that property under contract, right? Because I think a lot of people are contracting things that they're just hopeful and wishing on.
Right.
So like out of the number of houses that you contract, what percentage do you think that you actually sell?
Most of them. I would say that I think this year we're on track to do so far 32 deals, and I think there's been 3 that I haven't sold. And I'm honest with the sellers sometimes, or a lot of the time, all the time. I tell them, you know, I can do this price, but I can't guarantee that I can sell your house at this price. If they just absolutely will not come down on the price, I'll say, I'll try to find a buyer for you at this price. But if I can't do it, I'm going to have to cancel the contract. And it's just a risk they're willing to take. So I believe in being completely transparent, telling them I'm wholesaling. I'm going to find a buyer for you. It's not me that's going to buy the house. And that way, when it doesn't work out, if it doesn't work out, you know, it's all good.
Yeah, which is the right way to do it. And congrats on doing that many deals right now in this market. That's a pretty good feat to accomplish. Yeah, so it's important. The good thing when you do it that way, for one, you can look yourself in the eye at the end, you know, later at night when you're home alone. But also, it makes it a lot easier to get people into the property because, guys, if you're telling people that you're buying the house and representing that you're buying the house, and you know you're going to wholesale it, and then you're trying to bring a lot of people through the house, you can only make so many excuses like, well, I got another contractor coming by, or I got an inspector coming by, or insurance. So eventually you run out of numbers. Or if you have 20 people that want to go by at once, how are you going to explain that? And then also, if the deal doesn't, if you can't sell it, say you have it at 100 and you can't sell it and you have to go back for a reduction later, they don't think that you're trying to, you know, beat them up because you're like, hey, look, I brought these people through. You saw the market said that this is too much. Now you're kind of on the team instead of butting heads in it. And also they're not so mad at you if you have to back out, right?
Right. That's happened several times.
Yeah. And it's, nobody wants to not be able to help that person. And it's frustrating to have to let them go. But sometimes these people get really, really upset, right? If you mislead them. And so I learned my lesson early on. I did that one time. I was like, I'm never going to do this again. And I think a lot of people feel that if you tell them that what you're doing is that you're going to wholesale and you're going to bring another buyer, and that their fear is that they're not going to get that house under contract, right? That's the biggest fear. What do you think?
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, starting out, that's what I did. I said, I got to bring my contractors through this house. And it just ate me up because I was like, I'm lying to these people and I'm bringing people through here. They're not contractors. And I'm like tippy-toeing around the fact that they're investors. And I was like, let me just try being honest with these people. And you know what? As long as they get what they want for the house and they feel like you're taking care of them, being honest with them, they're good. No one has ever complained about it once. So it's been a relief for me to act that way instead of trying to BS around it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the best way to do it. So what does it kind of look like on how do you kind of analyze your deals right now? So everybody that, you know, I think a lot of people see wholesalers deals coming through all the time and they think, oh, well, that's a wholesaler. They're quick to judge. But most wholesalers are really just investors. They're flipping houses. They're keeping rentals. They're doing owner financing. They're doing a large number of exit strategies, but they're only seeing a small percentage of the deals that you're putting out, right? So how do you decide which ones you want to flip, which ones you want to keep? Are you going by any criteria, or are you just looking by city, or how do you kind of look at that?
I mean, I'm nervous of big, huge repair budgets, so I like keeping the houses that don't need crazy amounts of work on them. Yep. So if I put 30 or 40 grand in a house, that's like my comfort level. And then anything kind of under $230,000 is kind of my comfort level for flips. Everything else above that, I've wholesaled some $500,000 stuff that I am not comfortable flipping right now. So I would definitely wholesale that stuff. And then I've wholesaled some stuff that's like $20,000 in the hood of Dallas where I'm not comfortable touching that either. So that's kind of my criteria.
Yeah. So personally right now, the ones we're keeping are 1990 really and newer brick houses. Everything else, I'm either going to flip it, but most people don't understand that they're new in the business. They flipped a couple low-end properties and then they go buy their first $500,000 flip. They got $5,000+ in carrying costs. And all of a sudden they start to feel the real estate burn, right? Because it starts cranking down every day is literally $200, $300, $400, depending on the size of property they buy, coming out of their pocket. So now just when their contractors don't show up for 2 days, and then it gets scary because if you're not selling it quickly or for what you want, or you went way over budget and you're looking, what happens if I have to finance out of it? Now you're negative $1,200 a month cash flow. People realize real quick they got themselves into a situation because they just saw that huge gap of what they were going to make. So I think it's smart to stay under there. We're trying to stay under 250 now as well. We were flipping some high end properties for a while there through 2015, 2016, but some of the ones that we had earlier this year, and they weren't that high price point, mid threes, were sitting in nice areas. Frisco. Yeah, it's just this carrying cost will eat you up. And so the main thing I'm looking for, I don't know. So what are y'all thinking? Like, are you paying close attention to the number of actives when you're buying these houses now to take title to them?
Yeah, as far as like keeping them for rentals or flips or whatever.
Yeah, for your flips.
Yeah, I look at days on market for sure and make sure stuff is moving pretty quickly and there's plenty of comps. I don't want to sell or buy houses in neighborhoods where there's like 2 houses that sold in the past 90 days. I'm not messing with that neighborhood. And if like days on market are 30 to 40 days and they're nice flip houses, I'm not messing with that neighborhood either. I'll wholesale that stuff. So I'm really picky with that. And then rentals, I look at the rentals and see what stuff's renting for around the area. I'm going to do my first Section 8 here, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, let me know how that goes. I haven't done it yet, but I've heard mixed opinions. I know a lot of people that swear by it, but I also know a lot of people that swear they never do one again because it went so bad. So I think it's hit or miss. But you know, my opinion is that, guys, if you're going to take title to a property, check the number of actives, and if there's some nice looking houses, clearly that they were done well, and you've got 5 or 6 actives in an area in a subdivision, you better be careful. That area may be cooling off, right? And you may be getting yourself into a tough spot. Yeah. So how are you marketing around DFW? Are you staying close in one area? Are you going around in a big marketing area? Because I think a lot of investors try to stay in their local area when they start their business. I think that stunts their growth. What are y'all doing?
Yeah, we kind of go anywhere. The big, well, I said the big 4 counties, but now we do some deals in Hunt County, done deals in Grayson County, Johnson County. So kind of anywhere that there's a deal, I'll go. I think initially we were marketing to just Dallas and Tarrant County heavily, and I was spreading myself too thin. All my deals were really coming from Tarrant County because maybe I have an 817 area code. I don't know, but so we're getting more targeted now with certain, not geographic, but more with lists. So we were doing absentee owner, we were doing code violations, we were doing evictions, we're doing all these different lists, and it can add up really quick on your marketing budget.
Yep.
And then the consistency part of it gets really expensive. So we've narrowed that down. So
yeah, because Tarrant County, which is, guys, if you're from out of Texas, right? So we have Dallas, Fort Worth, 2 major cities kind of merge. The Tarrant side's a little bit older, especially the north side. Like, so you got a lot of houses in the 1950 to 65 range. So I think there's just a lot more deals over there because, just there's a larger volume of those houses. But it's important to branch out and go into your secondary and tertiary markets, which you've done, which is Grayson County, when he's talking about, is north of Dallas. And so sometimes when your market's tight and there's a lot of investors, you need to branch out and to kind of spread your hunt zone, I guess you could say. How has that been? Because that's a totally different market. Some of these smaller areas, they have less buyers. There's less money out there. The houses are usually older. They're little small areas, 3 to 10,000 people. How's that been? Have you been able to find buyers for your wholesale deals very easily out there, or has there been anything different?
Yeah, I was kind of worried about that. I got some leads in Greenville, and I thought, man, nobody buys houses in Greenville. And then I got under contract, and you do. I sent an email out.
I wanted to buy that one.
And you said, man, you sold that too cheap. I was like, well, I had no idea if anybody would want that house. And certainly they did. So I did another one out there, and I didn't even email it out. I just texted somebody. He was like, yeah, I'll take it. So Greenville's a good little market.
I know a few big investors that built basically their entire portfolio in Greenville, which is a small area outside DFW. But yeah, you are going to be able to sell those, or you're going to have to sell those at a lesser price per square foot as compared to market value. So like here in Dallas right now, a decent house in a decent city, it's crazy, but we're wholesaling some of them 83, 85 cents on the dollar if the numbers are right. Whereas if you go into one of these smaller areas, you may have to get it, or you may have to sell it, I don't know, mid to high 70 cents on the dollar, sometimes even 80 cents on the dollar, but you may sell it for less, but you're getting these houses at a much higher discount than you can in Dallas because there's no competition, or the competition that's out there is so limited that you don't have to worry about it too much.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. So are you have you going to try to move into owner financing? Have you looked into notes at all?
Owner finance is my next step. That's really what I want to get into is buy some stuff and owner finance it, both with some private money and with wrapping it subject to stuff as well.
Yeah, because that's where these little areas are good that's a strategy that's good for these areas because the banks don't finance these houses. They're older. They're too low of a price point. The banks are not making enough money on them. And so if you have the ability to come in and buy these houses and finance them out, you're going to do real well. The one thing that hurt me early on was I tried to retail flip some houses in these small areas, and it's tough to do that because if you can't sell it right away, the buyer pool is so small in a 3 or 4 or 5,000 person town. What are you going to do? And so that's actually how I stumbled across owner financing because I got stuck. I couldn't sell a house, and even then I had to bring 40 plus buyers through before I could sell it on owner finance. So wholesaling is good because you're not taking risks, but yeah, I wouldn't try to be retail flipping houses, guys, in a small market unless you really know that there's been a lot of sales because it can be risky. But are y'all doing any different? You're just doing direct mail to these areas? Are you trying radio ads or billboards? Because some of these small areas, it can be cheaper to do these higher ticket marketing strategies because in Dallas, it's $5,000 for a billboard, but in small areas, it could be $500 for a billboard.
Yeah, I haven't looked into doing that. It's been direct mail stuff, and I'm going to get a 903 area code, which is the Greenville area code. I'm going to get a P.O. box in Greenville, so it looks like I have a local business in Greenville because I think that's important too. If people see that I'm from Fort Worth trying to do deals in Greenville, they're like, what's this guy? So I think if you're in their backyard, you'll get more leads. And we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's kind of my thought process.
No, I mean, a lot of these small areas, they like the small town feel. Just be careful if you guys are going to some of these secondary markets and you're, rehabbing these houses. A lot of them don't like the city people, right? That's what they call us, the city folk. They don't like you coming out there, and the inspectors aren't going to like you. The city's not going to like you, which is contrary to what you think. You think that they're happy that you're coming up there and fixing these old houses up and kind of turning the city around. But man, myself, some of my fellow investors, we've had major issues with cities in these small areas. So it's just something to think about. So yeah, changing your area code to make it look like you're local can definitely increase your conversions, in my opinion.
Cool.
Yeah. So, I know we're kind of coming to an end here. Is there anything that y'all are doing that you want to point out here real quick? That I know that are y'all doing a lot with your real estate, your traditional side, or where's most of y'all's income coming from? Like, what does it look like? So you got your investing side and your brokerage side, or your real estate license side. How many houses are you doing on each one? Where's your main focus?
I do almost 0 houses on the retail side of it, just because I think you get the stuff that you like, you attract what you enjoy doing, and I really don't enjoy doing it. So I've done like 4 listings, and every one of them was very difficult. So I kind of stopped doing that. But we're wholesaling off the MLS now too. So we'll make offers on houses, get them under option, and market those to investors. And we get them usually less than what the MLS price is. So it's still a deal. But even if it's not, even if it's higher than the MLS price, the numbers make sense, it'll sell. So we're doing a lot of that.
Really, really. That's interesting because I've always had a hard time selling them where, for example, say it's listed on the MLS for 100 and you're selling it for 105, even though if you're selling it for 105 and it was an off-market deal, 1 billion buyers would buy it. For some reason, if you put it back up there and you wholesale and people see those on the MLS for 100, they push back if it's at 105 for some reason. You not seeing that very much? Or
I mean, I get people that question that, but I mean, I did a deal in Dallas that was $450,000 and we got it under contract for quite a bit less than that. So the MLS price was like equal to what I was selling it at, but people still saw that. And I think it's another case of someone's going to buy that house, right? So if I don't buy it, somebody else is going to buy that house. It's still a good deal no matter what, as long as the numbers make sense. I haven't had any issue with it.
Really? So are you going, how many offers do you think it takes to get, are you real selective, or are you just mass offering out these individuals and playing a volume game? Or
volume game for sure. Like 50, 60 offers a week for me and my wife each is kind of what we do to find the deals, and they're hard to come by. And then agents get really mad sometimes because you're making blind offers, So they'll ask you, have you seen the house? And I said, no, just wait a second. So I'll do a CSS thing. And so I can make an appointment to see the house. I'm not going to go look at it though, but just to kind of appease them, to make them think I've seen it. They get that email notification, and then I make the offer.
That's smart.
Little trick there.
Yeah, that's smart because they don't want you wasting their time because everybody's doing this, right? People are just mass blasting offers in, and they know that if you have and/or signs in your contract, there's a good chance that you're not going to close on it, right?
So yeah, with our contracts, if we do an MLS offer, kind of a trick we do is we put it in our personal name and we'll assign it to our LLC if we get the deal under contract. And I don't put and/or signs on the contract when we do that because the check contract, it is assignable unless stated otherwise. So keeping that off of there, I think kind of keeps them from thinking it's some big investment group. So it's Jason McDougall is the buyer. Kind of in my mind makes them want to do the deal with me instead of some big company.
Well, that's some really good advice right there, guys. That's a good gold nugget for you there. If you're a wholesaler right now and you're making offers off the MLS, are you getting real aggressive with your earnest money, or you're doing a short option, but are you doing a higher earnest money or?
Yeah. So if it's a $150,000 house and I think it's a great deal, I'll do a $5,000 earnest money on the house to show them I'm serious. And if I can't sell the deal, like, so realtors are like, wow, $5,000 earnest, he's serious. I'm going to get my money back if I cancel with my option.
But you got $10 option of.
Yeah. I mean, I'll do like $50. So $50 to $100 for the option period. And I try to get on those ones 5 to 7 days if I can. If it's an off market deal, I usually do the shorter period because I know it's really competitive with other wholesalers.
Yeah. It's always blown my mind why, I mean, I don't know if it's just that there's such a influx of new investors or agents out there, but like, they're so blinded by earnest money. Like, you need to put big earnest money up. Sure, I'll put them as much earnest money as you want up, but I'm putting like $10 option money up, $50 option money, which is the only thing that really matters because, like you said, you're going to get it back. But I think so. That's a good form of leverage, and I definitely agree with what you're doing there to get more offers accepted. But the problem is for most wholesalers, they don't have that type of money, right, to put up there. So that can be tough for them. So is there anything else or like that y'all are doing? Are y'all focusing on higher price point properties? Or because I mean, probably most people search MLS, they go on there, they sort by price per square foot, and they start from the bottom and go bottom up. So is that what you think you're doing, is to get more leads by going higher price point properties? Or
yeah, higher price point properties, and we'll pick certain zip codes where I know that there's a lot of flips going on, a lot of flip activity, and a lot of older neighborhoods that are established. And I'll click through like the first 5 pictures, and if I see some outdated countertops or bathrooms, then that's when I'll make an offer on. Even if the house isn't like terrible, if it looks like grandma lived there and it's part of her estate or something like that, I'll make an offer on that house. But the houses that are like $130,000, everybody's making offers on those houses. It's not even worth my time.
Yep, it's tough. And also, I think there's just a lot of investors are scared to, even though their risk is, as long as they're writing a correct contract and getting out to an option, their risk is the same $50 that it would be on a lower price point property, but something scares them about contracting a $500,000 house, right? I don't know what it is. It's just somewhere that's scary to them. But if they default and somehow they got sued to buy like a $130,000 house and they got no money versus $500,000 house, they're still in the same situation they're going to be in, which is, it's never going to happen anyways. Yeah, so that's interesting. So yeah, he gave you some really good information right there. If you're around the country and you're doing that, because most people think the MLS is dead. We're not doing that in my business right now, particularly, but I know a lot of people are doing well, still doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think getting started, you mentioned that people might not have the earnest money. I think bandit signs are the way to go if you're getting in the business and just starting out. Just make sure you've got a Google Voice number. And I'm very cautious when people call me off those bandit signs to make sure it's not some code enforcement guy trying to trap me. And I'm serious, man. Like, somebody called me today and they said, we found some of your bandit signs. Do you want them back? I was like, nope, you can trash them. Just throw them away. Thank you.
Well, they'll do it, right? They'll lie to you. So I had it happen a couple of times where, and I was struggling at the beginning to get leads, and because most new investors start out with bandit signs. I'd say probably that's one of the most common ways to get in the business. And I had someone call me one day and she's like, oh, well, I got this house, I don't know. I think it's worth like 150 is what my real estate agent told me, but I just want to sell it for 50. And so I'm all excited and I call it and she's like, guess what? Code enforcement. And she was like, you knew she did this all the time, right? And then, yeah. So just be a little bit careful out there. Change your signs around. That's why I tell them, don't go buy everybody's like, well, I'm going to get a discount. I'm going to go buy 2,000 signs at once. But if you get flagged for that phone number and that color pattern or whatever, that specific sign, now you got all these signs that you can't do anything with. So I'd say instead of focusing on that small discount, just buy 200 or 300 at a time. That way, if you get caught, you can change your number, or you can, basically just change the sign so you look like you're someone different. Because they deal with this for years straight, right? Then it's never going to stop.
They'll say, I don't recognize your number, so I know this is the first time you put out signs here, so this is a warning. Like, all right, I'm not putting signs out there anymore.
Yeah. So, all right, I'm going to let you go here in a second, but last thing let's go over, let's talk about a little bit about your buyers list. Building a 5,000 person buyers list is very good to do in just a couple of years. You're doing that through social media. You're doing it through, give a couple of good ways that some of these new investors could probably kind of duplicate what you've done.
I mean, the best way is when other wholesalers send out deals and they don't blind copy their buyers list. And so I'm like, well, thank you very much for your 400 buyers, and I'll add those to my list. I just send that email to a VA and I said, put this in Excel for me, please. But people say, I've got a deal in whatever city, put your email on my Facebook page, you know, all these public groups that people are in. And I copy and paste those like every day. I'm putting those in my buyers list. And then I traded lists with somebody recently. So I had like 3,000 and he said, if you give me your list, I'll give you some of mine. So I did that. And that's kind of up me up to the 5,000 mark. I was reluctant on doing that, but I was like, what's it going to hurt? I mean, there's enough buyers to buy all these deals. It'll be fine. So it really actually helped.
Yeah, I've always had mixed feelings about doing that. I mean, you never know. Like, if it works out really well. But what happens if they just pulled some random list of emails, you know? So they had an old buyers list. So I really don't have a good opinion on it either way on that.
I think you need to trust the person that you were doing that with. I mean, I know this guy, I trust him, and he does quite a bit of deals. I see his deals come around. So I'm like, well, I think this guy's legit. So I felt comfortable doing it. But yeah, for sure, vet the people for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably okay. I don't know, and I don't know what's the ruling on that. If you're able to do that, I mean, as long as you're putting, you know, an unsubscribe button and following basic spam laws, I've never heard anything that you can't do that, right? So
nobody's gonna get mad for you sending them good deals in their inbox, right?
So just don't send out crap, guys, and you're fine, right? Man, I appreciate you coming on here, guys. How do they get a hold of you, right? So if you want to join his buyers list, or you want to work with him or sell him a deal, or you're coming through Dallas, or you have money and you want to work with someone who's doing a lot of deals, how do they get a hold of you?
Buyers list is wholesalehousesdfw.com. And then my website is nexterahomebuyers.com for investing. And phone number is 682-207-8425. Or you just find me on Facebook. Happy to chat with people about real estate and answer questions if I can help them.
Awesome, man. Jason, I appreciate you coming on here. You gave a lot of good information. I think a lot of people are going to like this episode here. And guys, we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks, Connor. I appreciate it, man.
All right, man. Appreciate it.